I'm recording this only 3 days before my 32nd birthday. That feels so weird to me for some reason. Anyway, remember, my Patreon supporters got to see previews and work in progress shots of his figures as I worked on it. If you want to join them, all you gotta do is support me. The link is in the description below. Hello out there, this is Wake Angel 2001 coming at you with a commission for Chaoshog17, the classic Mighty the Armadillo. But not like any of my previous Mighty the Armadillos, this is the first one I made using Tommy's classic Sonic figure, as opposed to anything made by Jazzwares. Now, there is something that I learned about this figure in making this custom. I had assumed that Tommy's classic Sonic had a hollow head, just like the Sonic Boom figures that they make. But the fact is that his head is actually completely solid, just like Jazzwares' classic Sonic figure. Jackass that I am, I actually forgot to take a picture of the figure after I cut the spines off before I sculpted on the shell, but just trust me, his head is completely solid. I was at first thrown because I was wondering, hey, this figure isn't top heavy and it doesn't override the plastic in the legs like the Jazzwares figures did. And I realized that's because of its smaller size. It may not be that much smaller, but you gotta remember, volume scales as the cube of any one other dimension. So that means that despite the fact that this figure isn't that much smaller, his head is actually a lot smaller in terms of cubic inches. Because of that, it has much lower mass, and that lower mass is probably why the legs don't bend and the joystick don't get overridden. Two problems that the Jazzwares figures had. In fact, in order to make my Jazzwares classic Sonic stand, I had to embed a needle into his leg to act as support. Although, even with the epoxy sculpt making up his shell, this figure is still not top heavy. It seems that the shell that I made doesn't really weigh any more than Sonic's native spines, which is a good thing. And you may be wondering why this video is so short. That's because the process for this figure was actually not that difficult. Well, I shouldn't say difficult, I should say it wasn't complicated. Because despite the fact that the head was solid, the rest of the construction is still like the rest of Tommy's Sonic figures, where I can't take the head or the arms and legs off because the mushroom caps are shaped differently. So let's just take a look at the completed Mighty figure, which I pretty much had to do all in one piece, because the only things I could take off were the hands and feet. There he is! Although I really gotta say, this red and yellow paint still photographs terribly. Like, to the naked eye, these things do not look like this, but when I take the photo, like, it looks so streaky and scratchy. It almost looks like I painted it with nail polish, and I didn't even do that good a job, because I can even see some of the blue underneath. Oh yeah, his shoes are cast in blue plastic and then painted. They're not actually red. That made things fun when I cut the buckles off. But yeah, like, it photographs terribly, but this figure actually looks much better in hand. I know you have only my word to go by that, but hey, my commissioners can tell you, right? Hey, former commissioners, you're watching, right? Talk in the comments about how sometimes figures painted lighter colors like red, orange, and yellow don't photograph very well, but they still look really nice in hand. Please.